Welcome to White Pill Radio, the roughly every other episode version of Theology on Air, which is an outgrowth of Theology by the Pint, which is a monthly gathering in Houston around craft beer where we talk about all the most interesting and important religious and ethical and social and political topics and theological topics that you could possibly imagine. And so to learn more about that, you should go right now to theologybythepint.org and learn about our leadership team, our upcoming events, how you can support this ministry, because we totally depend on donations from churches and donations from individuals. Maybe you could get your church to make us part of your budget or something like that. Think about it.
And we're coming up on 10 years. This is our 10-year anniversary. When this airs,
Yes.
we will be just a few weeks out from our fundraiser, September 20th, where we'll be celebrating 10 years as an organization. So it's going to be really so much fun. Beer tasting, pub trivia, celebrations, make your own merch. You can have a cool water bottle like this. Anyway, you should come. It'll be great.
Absolutely. So September
20th.
20th.
And it is a $50 entrance fee. But if you ever go to any other fundraiser for any other nonprofit, they'll be like, buy a table. The lowest level is $300. So I think 50 is a pretty good deal. You get a bunch of beer, food, fun, hang out with me and Evan.
It'll be a brew off, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, at no charge, I will argue with you about something. So like just for free. So
like you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you feel free to do that. Okay. White Pill Radio, though, we talk about news and current events. This is post-apologetic, ultimately hopeful radio. I like to say that it's blessed talk, but not happy talk. You might have heard me say that. And so the point is that all the things we can't cover in our live events, we do on the podcast. And this is specifically looking at news and current events from a Christian worldview, where we're going to try to give an optimistic take, hence the white pill, not the red pill or the blue pill or the black pill. Oh, no, never black pill. We are white-pilled people here. So we're going to be as optimistic as possible on all these stories. But sometimes there's some bad stories out there, and the first one is one of those stories. So let's talk about that.
I don't know about white pill meaning always optimistic.
Yes.
I think it is, what does the gospel have to say about this? When we look at things through a Christian worldview, what's our takeaway?
Very fair. Because white pill is not...
well, it's not happy talk. I know that.
It's not happy talk, yeah. That would be simplistic, probably naive.
You should start saying that in the intro, maybe. Just throwing that out there as an idea.
I might say that.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
So if you've followed it all in the news, you know that there was this awful shooting a couple days ago in Minnesota at a Catholic school. 2 children were murdered, 18 more injured. And, the man, and I'm going to call him a man because he is a man, who did this, had a manifesto and various slogans and things written on all of his guns and ammo. And people are trying to figure out what the motivation is, and he was trans identifying. So he was born Robert and officially had his name changed to Robin, and was at some point in the process of transitioning to become a woman. Not that I think that one can do that, but
and actually detransitioning.
Yeah, well, or regretting. I don't know if he was actually detransitioning, but saying he regretted it. He'd been brainwashed, and I mean, obviously a very confused individual. With a lot of different sort of causes. Some people call it the omni cause. He's mad at Trump. He's mad at Israel. He doesn't think the Holocaust got rid of enough Jews. I mean, it's just really awful. And pictures in there where he's like looking in he draws himself looking in a mirror and he sees a demon on the other side. And there's some recordings of him just sounding really creepy and evil. And, people are talking about mental illness and this and that. And I thought, of all the things that he said, he wants to kill Trump, he wants to kill Jews, he hates Catholics. There is kind of this ultimate rebellion toward God or religion. And there is definitely something demonic happening here. And I would like to say, and I know that this is not going to be a popular sentiment, I think that him being trans, or let me say this, I think the trans ideology is demonic. Which is not to say that everybody that's trans has a demon or worships Satan or something like that. But the actual ideology is about death. It's about killing who you are. You think your identity is wrong, and so you want to kill off. If I were trans, I'd want to kill, the woman version of me and become a man, which I don't think is possible. But it's death focused, which is exactly what the enemy wants. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So he's the father of lies. He is whispering lies into this poor man's ear who listened and went right along with it. And so when people are like, well, was it mental illness or was it, spiritual? I'm like, yes to all of that.
Yeah.
And they are intertwined, which again is not to say that everyone that has some kind of mental illness, is possessed or something. But I do think that the trans ideology is so written by, captivated by, ruled by evil. And I mean Satan himself, the father of lies, that, I think this was a satanic event that happened.
Yeah. And the fact that it, was generated towards a Catholic school, a Christian school.
While they were in mass.
Innocent children. He said he kind of delighted in seeing them.
Worship him, it said. He wanted to see them looking up at him.
Like he knew when mass time was, so he's, shooting.
Well, he went to the school.
Yeah. By the way, we're using his not preferred pronouns. Just want to point that out since the media said so many times this week, oh, by the way, he, goes by her. She goes by she, her. Okay, let's break it down a little bit.
Okay.
Because I remember whenever we would debate, and I guess we still do on occasion, LGBT, broadly, but the L and the G and the B, we never debate the B, actually. We only debate gay or trans. Okay. When we would do that, part of my point was, right there at the first page of the Bible is be fruitful and multiply, right? So God's plan for creation is male, female, be fruitful and multiply. Jesus quotes from that as part of his teaching on marriage and divorce. And so part of whatever it is like we're supposed to be doing as human beings, procreation and participating in God's creative acts, is part of that. It's just part of what we're meant to do. Hopefully that's obvious to everybody. So the gay lifestyle, we would argue, is against God's plan because it's impossible for that to take place. Men and men don't produce children and so on and so forth. But the trans ideology and confusing what we'll call gender or sex roles or what have you, and you literally have the body parts that produce the next life taken off. Yes, it's like it's against God's plan. Yeah. So the whole debate gets convoluted and confusing because we are told that the highest and best good in the world today is to find our true self. So if we are confused about our identity, that transgenderism allows us to find our true self. And the Christian point of view is that our true self is found in conforming to the way we are created. Yeah. At least in part, right? Yeah. So like God made me male. Yeah. So I'm a man. Yeah. So I'm going to do man things. And that may not mean I play football or it could mean I'm a fashion designer. I was thinking that. You ever seen the movie The Phantom Thread? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, you can be a man's man.
You can be artistic.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not saying it in a simplistic way. But men do men things, women do women things, and it's a basic fact that everyone agreed to. So there's a lot of ways you can be satanic, is what I'm trying to say, in the broadest sense of the use of that word, in the sense that it's opposed to God, in the sense that evil is the deprivation of the good. Yeah. And obviously taking female hormones, in my view it's obvious, or cutting off female body parts or male body parts to try to become the other thing is a rejection of the way that God made you.
Well, it's also, and we're going to talk about this with one of our other stories too, but it also goes back to the sort of first ever, crime against God when Adam and Eve wanted to be their own gods. You want to be the ruler of yourself, but you have a ruler. You have a creator. Right. And here's the thing. Sometimes it can sound sort of cranky when we talk about this, like, well, you just got to suck it up and live the life that God made for you, even if you don't like it. But it is actually so good. It's for your flourishing and for your joy. We're going through a series in our church right now through Ecclesiastes, and it's all about how, you can't shepherd the wind, and there's so many things wrong with this world. But if you trust God and you continue in obedience to him, you take joy out of the world that he's given us with all these gifts, including our sex. Yeah. And the way he built us to be, and making children and families and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, this desire for him to like see these kids worship him and be sort of a godlike image in that moment, but also to be the God of his own body and his own self. It's just so counter, and it's honestly so sad.
It's very sad. It's tragic that in the pursuit of finding our true selves, we deny
our true selves.
We deny our true selves. Because finding our true self is losing ourself in God, in the way that God made us. So to sort of to hate yourself is a tragic sort of thing. Yeah. We should be helping people love themselves, and we're actually just feeding this idea that they're not their true self. So
well said.
And tied to that, or tied into that story is there was this kind of debate where this is from a tweet from Nick Solheim, and he just said his comment was, Minnesota has really cornered the market on leaders who hate God. This is such a profoundly evil and wicked thing to say. And he's quoting the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, who offered condolences to the families of the victims of Wednesday's shooting, dismissing any offers of quote-unquote thoughts and prayers. He said, the mayor, don't just say this about thoughts and prayers, or don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now, he said. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. As if prayer is some kind of, I mean, there's actually a whole theology of prayer to unpack here, right?
Yeah.
But as if prayer itself is some,
like to save you in the
yes,
moment.
like talisman,
Yeah.
right? That you can put a force field around yourself, like in Star Wars, you know. and nothing will penetrate me here because we're in prayer.
Right.
It's like, how many martyrs died in the midst of prayer? Okay, thousands. I mean, Stephen in Acts 6, the first martyr, like literally sees a vision of heaven as he's dying, and God was aware of that. So we don't believe it. We don't have a theology of prayer that prayer is this automatic force field against evil in the world.
Yeah.
Yes. And so obviously he's displaying probably a lack of interest, but an ignorance about what prayer even is. But then to almost say, you know, don't pray in this situation, we need action. Because that seems to be the, if not prayer, then, if not thoughts and prayers, if we're forbidden from that, then what? Well, gun control.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
or
that's
something.
the obvious next thing.
And
it wasn't just him. You know, J.D. Vance said the thing about our prayers go out and let's all pray together. And then Jen Psaki and various other people were so mad at him for saying that. Like, you're mad that he wants people to pray for the souls of these poor moms that have just lost their babies. Like, what?
I mean, I think that's demonic.
Yeah.
You know, like this idea that actually we need a wholesale rejection of religion at this moment.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just nothing about
almost
it
like
is
it got us
working.
in this mess. And
well, I mean, the Nashville school shooting and others. I mean, at some point, and you know, statistics can be abused. And so someone sent me a link this week that basically said since 2018, violence against Christians in America is up like 700%. And I'm like, well, okay, but it might have been like 1 in a million or something, right? So so an increase of 700% sounds like a lot, but maybe.
But it's not as remarkable. Maybe. Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, it actually, I do think is kind of remarkable. And I think that where we're at in the culture, if I could be so bold, is to say that as the battle of the worldviews continues to rage, that Christianity is going to be blamed, and it certainly has been blamed for the trans problem, right? Because we're not affirming.
Yeah, we're bigots.
If you don't affirm, then you are the reason that they are mentally unbalanced. You're the reason for the illness. You're the reason they're not being accepted. So eventually, you know, or it could be that historically Christianity broadly in America supported slavery. So we gave rise to racism. Yeah. So, you know, we could be blamed for that. I mean, leftism and Christianity, I would argue, are incompatible from, you know, that's a broad statement, but.
Well, this thoughts and prayers thing, if the way I'm hearing these leaders talk about it, they obviously don't believe prayer is real. Like either there's no one that you're actually talking to or he doesn't care. Right. And so, yeah, if you didn't think it was real, I guess I would find it annoying if someone said to me, well, if someone said to me, I'm sending you good vibes, I'd be like, don't bother. Yeah. You know, like, so maybe that's how they view it. But then that's telling, you know? Yeah. And also it's a false dichotomy to say, like, you can forget thoughts, but you can pray for someone and you can want to fix whatever the problem is, whatever that might look like. And part of the gun control that they're asking for might look like, hey, if someone is trans identifying, maybe that fits into the red flag, you know, that you look for when you sell them a gun. Right. The kind of like more, so someone like a Charlie Kirk or like Megyn Kelly, they're kind of in like the right camp, but they're kind of like normal. They're like normal conservative, you know, like the non-normal conservatives are like, oh my God, because Charlie Kirk basically said maybe red flag laws for people going through transitions or like on psychotic drugs. You know, maybe if you're on lithium, you don't get a gun. You know, maybe the Second Amendment, you know, doesn't apply to you. And I think that's a legitimate question that maybe we need to have. I don't know if I would agree with it. The reason we don't like red flag laws is because
you can be falsely accused of, say, domestic violence, and while they're doing the investigation, which could take a year, they come and take all your guns, and now your Second Amendment right really is infringed because they might find that you're improperly accused. So.
But I would think this is less tricky. You either
Right.
are or you aren't on
Right.
puberty blocker, cross-sex hormones, or amputating parts of
Right.
your body.
Well, part of the difficulty is that there's a group called Able Child, and this is the drum they beat all the time, which is, why can't we get the autopsy result of these people, right? So the Adam Lanzas of the world, this guy, was he on drugs? Tell us, give us the information, and that always seems to be withheld.
Yeah.
Or the manifestos seem to be withheld, like the Nashville shooter that had to be leaked like a year later. So it's like, why can't you just tell us what's happening? Why do we have to work so hard to find out, were they on puberty blockers? Were they on hormones? Were they on this? Were they antipsychotic? Were they on antidepressants? What is going on here?
You know what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think so. But it is a tragedy. I'll say one last hot take perhaps, is that the priests need to be armed, the teachers need to be armed, the principals need to be armed covertly. I mean, I think that's the only way to essentially stop a lot of these public shootings, is if you identify yourself, or even if you have armed security that's identified. You're giving them all the advantage. You're giving the person who wants to do violence all of the advantages.
Yeah.
You're saying, we're not armed.
Right.
So come
on in anytime. Yeah.
Or we are armed with this guy over here. So take him out first, or wait till he's, I don't know, doing the rounds somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just think we're at a point at so many things in our culture where we trust people to teach our kids so we can trust them with a weapon if they are comfortable with it. We trust people to fly our planes.
Yeah.
Which is a weapon, so we can give them a weapon too. I would think that, like, just I don't know, if we trust people with the very important things in our lives, that if we want to avoid public shootings, then we need to be allowing people to be armed in these spaces. So,
well, I don't think anyone would balk if they had said, we're going to hire 10 police officers that are just going to be on campus all the time because they're police officers.
Right.
And so we trust, like you're saying.
Right.
But yeah, if you're going to entrust your child to people to teach them, especially teach them ideology and worldview, and
I mean, well,
I'm down.
Or just simply basically have sort of private access to your children, right?
Yeah.
So like teachers talk to your children, right? Like that's how a lot of sexual abuse happens at schools, is because, we trust teachers to have access to our children, and sometimes they abuse that trust. So I'm like, well, if we trust them to have access to our children, then we should trust them to protect our children.
Yeah.
So the point, though, is not necessarily that, like, concealed carry priests running around that day would have killed him quicker than he killed himself, right? Because he unleashed, I don't know, hundreds of rounds, I guess, through the stained glass.
But it might have been a deterrent to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If he knows that, he goes somewhere else, or he doesn't go. And I don't want him to go somewhere else, but you have to kind of protect yourself.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Okay, so this is actually just an abstract for a study that I didn't read. But you can find it at newswise.com. The headline of the story is "Study Finds Right-Wing Media Operates More Like a Religion." And so this is right in my kind of, I don't say wheelhouse because that makes it sound like I have expertise, and I don't. But this is right in my area of interest because in the presuppositional apologetic camp, I argue that essentially, everyone has a worldview.
Yeah.
And religion is sort of inescapable. And one of the things that conservatives have said about the left for a while is that it operates like a religion. It has a code of conduct. It has ethical point of view. It has hierarchical positions. It has victim status.
Rituals.
Rituals, all of that. So whether you're looking at trans or pollution or climate change or whatever, or abortion, a lot of topics are, kind of religious in nature. They're talked about in a kind of sacramental way, etc. But this article finds that that problem is on the right. And so let me just read a few of these sentences. It says, a new sociological study offers a surprising take on the state of American news. Right-wing news media doesn't just sit on the opposite end of the political spectrum from mainstream outlets. It operates more like a religion than a traditional news source.
Hey guys, Sarah Stone here. Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure is a riveting podcast episode, but Theology by the Pint needs your help to continue providing these podcasts, offering our in-person events, and growing so we can bring thoughtful conversation and the hope of the gospel to a world that's increasingly walking away from church and from faith. Now that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, all donations are tax deductible, so we've crunched the numbers, and if each listener of this episode gave just $1 for each episode you listen to, we'd put a huge dent in our annual budget. So consider giving today. Go to theologybythepint.org/give and click the link to donate. Thanks so much, and now back to our show.
Well, first of all, total side note, like Trump threatened to take away ABC and CBS's right to broadcast, at least for free. It's because they have that broadcast right for free. And he's saying, well, you're either going to pay for the privilege or I'm going to remove it altogether. Because the coverage of me, he's saying, is like 97% negative.
Yeah.
So I love how, first of all, they've poisoned the well because they say mainstream outlets. Right.
Yeah.
So mainstream outlet is the liberal point of view, and right-wing news is the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So they've already framed the whole debate, which gets back to the whole problem with this whole thing is that you're assuming a worldview without defending it. But they say this. They say, while we often hear about polarized news media, research from Purdue University argues that this is the wrong framework. Instead of simple left versus right divide, sociologists Marcus Mann and Daniel Winchester argue that we are dealing with two quite different media systems. Well, that is true. Mainstream outlets such as New York Times, CBS News aim to report facts, inform a diverse American public, and cover a wide range of issues. In contrast, right-wing sites like Breitbart, Newsmax, and the Daily Wire focus on a narrow set of hot-button topics that are more concerned with reinforcing beliefs among a specific demographic than informing the public. So I guess, Sarah, my question to you is that what you think about the New York Times?
Right.
They're neutral arbiters? Just the facts, ma'am.
No, I don't know of any neutral news since when do you think that really started? When I was little, I feel like the news told you what was happening. Like when I was a little kid and we would watch the news with my parents.
Were they?
I mean, maybe I just thought it was.
Right. I mean, that's so.
But like local news would be like, man crashes into telephone pole. Like that's just the thing that happened. Not like, but we all know he did it because,
Did your family, and you may not want to admit to this because I realize it's pretty scandalous, but did your family listen to Rush Limbaugh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Rush Limbaugh did he did a lot of brilliant things. In fact, he was a radio genius. But one of the things he did was if you recall, like when all these wrecks were happening with SUVs, and he would talk about how the article would be SUV plows into building, right?
Oh, funny.
So it was never the driver's fault.
Right.
The SUV, because at the time, the gas guzzling SUV, climate change causing SUV, they were the enemy. And, and the articles were written to suggest that the SUV itself was like this automaton moving through the world.
This is like gun control.
It's very, very similar. Yeah. Very similar topic, mindset. But he also did a great job of pointing out how articles, the language that was chosen was imbued with meaning. Yeah. And a worldview was assumed from the outset. So it was a lot of circular reasoning. So, basically soldiers, committed torture, or, right-wingers believed in, pollution, or, Baptist hated gay people, or whatever the case was. They would assume that the right way to be is to accept LGBT as a neutral concept.
That's the default.
Yeah. And so if you oppose, say, gay marriage, then you're essentially a bigot, a homophobe, et cetera. And they don't say it; it's just imbued. It's just there it's just in the water,
in the language, in a sneaky way that you almost don't realize that it's getting into your subconscious. Yeah.
So therefore, the Rush Limbaugh essentially ignited in many ways a media response, which Andrew Breitbart took up the realm, and Drudge at the time took up the realm, and then Fox News and Roger Ailes, they took up they're all like pulling the baton from Rush Limbaugh. They're saying, oh well, we'll present. They're presenting a left wing kind of skew of reality, and we're going to do a right wing skew.
But the difference is, at least, so I listen to a lot of the Daily Wire. Mm-hmm. They will say, we come from a conservative standpoint, that is our bent. We don't claim to be neutral,
and they play clips of what they say on MSNBC, of what Jen Psaki says, of what,
or they interview people. They'll have people on there that are on the other, like congressmen that are Democrats and whatever. And so I like that because I'm like, well, you're saying who you are, and then I don't have to wonder if I'm being tricked, Yeah. But
Well, the question isn't, it's not a question of whether or not media operates like a religion. Yes, ideally, media would dispense facts, but it's essentially impossible. Because there's a lot of power at stake. So, Operation Mockingbird, I mean, not to go into conspiracy, it's not even conspiracy theory. It happened. The CIA infiltrated media. Mockingbird is in, you say what we tell you to say, right? You repeat after me. CIA says to, news anchor, repeat after me.
Simon
and the news anchor says, okay. And that's what Operation Mockingbird was. It's a real thing, and I think it still very much goes on. There are any number of media personalities today who thought about joining the CIA and didn't. Tucker Carlson being one of them. Anderson Cooper being another one.
We heard from Mark Zuckerberg, right, that he had been basically told to keep certain things off social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea that there's not media and social media collusion between the government, of course there is.
Yeah.
You'd have to be silly not to. But the point is that religious points of view, as in kind of meta-ethical points of view, they're impossible to deny. I do wish the media did the best job that they possibly could, understanding their own biases and being aware of their own biases to present information.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the old school journalism, the old school newsman.
Yeah.
Actually, a guy who I think actually in many ways fit that mold was Bernstein. Woodward and Bernstein.
Oh, yeah.
All the Kings, all the President's Men.
I don't know if I ever
the Watergate.
Yeah.
So Woodward was not to go into that. Woodward was a guy who came straight out of the military and was fed information by government people. He was not a reporter at all. But Bernstein was. He was like a real newsman, like a dog with a bone. You know what I mean? And those kind of guys, I don't know if they exist anymore because local media doesn't exist anymore. Like my local paper was bought out by Gannett like years ago, and maybe USA Today or whatever, right? So, like, you don't really have a lot of people like investigating local anymore. It's essentially a lot of commentary on events.
Yeah,
that's what the media is now. Anyway,
well, that's a real downer. Thanks for that.
Well, I just think it's interesting. I mean, I do think that as media consumers, we need to be careful of that. I think the idea that right-wing outlets are like a religion, but mainstream are not, is so naive that I don't know how anybody could take this seriously. Why don't we just be honest about it and say the New York Times is a left-wing outlet, MSNBC is a left-wing outlet. I mean, we all know that, right?
Yeah. So here's a question for you. If I'm listening to this podcast, I might be wondering this. As Christians, if we want to get news and we want to be as informed about the world as we can, what do you suggest? Like, do you take in media from both left and right, or do you just kind of know that the stuff you're getting comes from a bent that you're interested in? Like, where do you go to get your news?
A lot of I take in news from the right, but they do play a lot of news from the left because they use that as their foil, right? For better or worse to do that.
So you get to hear both sides either way.
Yeah, I think so. Twitter is the same. That's probably my main news source, or X. So
yeah,
I tend to follow more conservative people, but they're also saying, well, this person said this, and now here's the response. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't read the New York Times. I don't take it seriously. I don't read the Wall Street Journal, which is not a very conservative publication anymore. So, I don't listen to NPR.
Yeah.
Do you
ever go through the World Magazine puts out something called the Morning Sift, and it's got major headlines. And I mean, obviously they're Christian, and so they tend to be right leaning. That probably will get me in trouble, that sentence. But it tends to just be here's what's happening, bullet pointed, which is kind of handy. And then if you're interested, you can go and learn more about what happened. I don't think that statement should get you in trouble. I think that we're essentially getting to a point when people complain about Republican churches or Democrat churches or something like that. It's in the trans shooter issue weaves into this. I don't think we're getting. I think we're already probably at a place where, and I kind of said this and I didn't follow up on it, but much of left wing or leftist ideology is just incompatible with Christianity. I mean, I know that. We do put out the invite for this show to many of our Christians who are more, say, liberal than myself, for sure. And they can't always make it. So
apologies for that to the listener. That maybe we're not more balanced, but we do everything we can to be. But like, yes, the arguments can be made that Jesus was a kind of quasi-socialist or something like that. But I think if you look at the main tenets of leftism, they're just not compatible with Christianity. So therefore, you see this fissure. I mean, and I mean, who are the people in the media space who are practicing Christians, like on mainstream media? The newscasters at ABC, NBC, CBS. By the way, speaking of X and demonic, Nicole Shanahan, who is RFK Jr.'s running mate, baptized as a Christian a few months ago, very explicit Christian. She wrote an article called "Is Burning Man Demonic?" And since you can't get on X because you were hacked or something.
Yes, I was hacked.
Okay.
It's impossible for me to get back on. If you're listening and you work for X, you can help me.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
And if you're an X user, I would, try to maybe you can, even if you're not on X, you can still read it somehow. But it's an article she wrote, and it's a very thoughtful article, I thought. And her ultimate conclusion is much like the previous conversation, is that, well, yeah, there's a lot of overt occultism that goes on at Burning Man and such, but it's kind of like the screw tape letters, and she used that analogy where you're just pulled here and there and here and there, and none of it's explicitly Christian, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So if it's not explicitly Christian, then guess what? It's on the other team.
I'm telling you, the more that I listen to news and the more I engage with what's happening in the world, I think I'm becoming more of a cranky get off my lawn person like you, because and this is what keeps coming to my mind. Even this morning when I was thinking what we were going to talk about today. This idea when Jesus says, if you're not with me, you're against me, it's actually true. Like there really are two camps in this world.
Yep.
There's the camp of being in line with what God wants and how he created things to be and flourishing and enjoying that life and his good gifts. And then there's everything else, which is by definition, anti-God / demonic / evil.
And so if there's a version of Jesus where you can be like, Jesus calls us to radical generosity, or Jesus calls us to radical, Jesus even calls us to radical community in a way. Okay, I can go there. If we're not talking about government confiscation, I can go there. I mean, I have a pastor friend, and he always says Jesus is way more left wing than you would like to think, and he's way more right wing than you would like to think. And I think there's so much wisdom in that, not in a pithy way like, oh, he really is a commie. No, but just like he does challenge that like generous side of us, the selfish side of us, in being more generous and being more open.
Well,
but he also like stands for like truth.
Yeah,
like without reservation.
And I think we agree about this, that we don't think our friends who vote Democrat are like not Christians because of that. But you can say that those two worldviews can't coexist, and that maybe they're confused or they'll change their minds.
Harder to coexist as well, because I would say leftism in America is really tripling down at this point on, transgenderism. Which
I know they're picking the most weird things to double down on, as you said.
So abortion, so again, like you could probably make the case that like redistribution of wealth at a certain level, like is defensible from a Christian point of view.
Yeah.
How it's redistributed or how much, like the problem is it's never enough. It's like we've been fighting the war on poverty since 1965, and the poverty rate is the same. We spent trillions of dollars. We have nothing to show for it. I would actually argue that we've actually created whole violent systems because we've destroyed the family through redistribution of wealth. So it's not just the amount of money. Let's say we could afford, welfare, as it's commonly called. Let's just say economically it was no problem. We could afford it. But has welfare done actually something to the American family? And I think people like Thomas Sowell and others have basically demonstrated, yes, it's actually destroyed the family.
Yeah.
Wherever it was. If it was in Appalachia, it was the white family. If it's in inner cities, it's the black family. It's not a race thing. Wherever you just give people money for nothing, if they're unmarried and have children, you destroy the family.
Yeah.
When you destroy the family, you have knock-on effects. Increased crime, fatherlessness, etc. Degeneration of neighborhoods, and so I think that like bang for your buck in the inverted use of that word, it's a terrible way to spend money.
Yeah.
But I can understand the impulse. Like I can understand someone being like, well, Jesus says we need to be radically communal and radically sharing. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But like we also need to be radically pro-family. So
Yeah.
you tell me how to do both of those things, and then we'll talk. So
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to clear the air that we don't think our progressive friends are,
yeah,
atheists or something.
right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying I think it's harder to be consistent,
Yeah.
in those things. But
And if you disagree with us and you want to come on the podcast, we are always open
Yeah.
to having other voices on here. So
I'm just going to say it. We have like 20 people on our group chat to
Yeah.
invite people to this particular podcast, and 2 of us came today. So
yeah,
I'm calling out, our group, and also our listeners. If you want to like come on, like, and talk, I think I'm pretty reasonable. I know Sarah's reasonable.
oh my gosh.
Okay. Speaking of families and marriage and
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
So this, actually, my husband, what a weird thing to say. It's new to me, so I'm getting used to it. Put this on my radar. And then my son and I had a fantastic conversation about AI companions. So this article, I don't remember where I pulled this from, but it says everything you need to know about AI companions, what they are, how to find them, potential risks, and more. I'm not going to read the whole thing. What's that?
Mashable.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It says the artificial intelligence boom is here, which means companies large and small are racing to introduce consumers to new products hyped as life-changing. And by the way, I think they're right about that.
Mhm.
Enter the AI companion. They're not chatbots, not cheap ChatGPT, blah, blah, blah. Though many relate to those products like they would a friend or romantic partner. That's sad. Instead, the AI companion is specifically designed for emotional intimacy. This is where we need a record scratch, sound effect. Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. A companion can be your friend, coach, role-playing partner, and yes, even your spouse. Companions come in many flavors because they're customizable. Anyway, it goes on to basically say that you can, and there's several apps and platforms that people can use already to do this kind of thing. And then, of course, you can even get like the physical, like robot doll, like sex dolls. And I should have said ahead of time to mute the podcast. But that's all I'll say about that. But so there's these platforms where you can build your own friend/partner. Have you ever watched the movie? Did you see the movie Her?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a must watch. Like,
it's fantastic. Yeah. But it's just the conversation I had with my son. It started. He sort of playfully said, "Oh, it's a perfect friend," because they won't ever be rude to you or challenge, or if they do, it's something you need to be challenged for. He was saying like maybe they'll tell you to go to the gym when you need to go to the gym, but they're not going to be ugly to you. And so I said, well, in one way, you're right. It is perfect in that you're not going to have any, maybe conflict. And humans are imperfect and we're sinful. And so we hurt each other, but there's something about hurting each other and resolving conflict, forgiving, sacrificing, that actually makes you a better person. It's part of the sanctification process.
Right.
So that's one piece of it. But the piece of this that I wanted to kind of draw our attention to is the fact that you're curating your person is, I'm trying to say this without using a naughty word. It's self-love. It's the M word,
Yeah.
Emotionally speaking.
Yep.
And it is the same idea, I know I sound like a broken record, of being your own God. Like I'm going to create a being that will be, in my image, what I want, what I think is fun, what I think is, and they'll probably think I'm amazing and so funny and so beautiful, and it's kind of gross at the end of the day and soul sucking. And I think will downward spiral people into utter isolation, where I don't see this going anywhere healthy. I know they're like, oh, it helps people that are maybe in dementia and they're elderly have a friend. And I see the heart behind that. And I think there's some sweetness in the intent there. But I think it's going to turn on its head and it's just not going to go well. And we know that because of biblical history. It doesn't go well to try to create something in your own image unless you're actually God. Anyway, I think it's a problem. I think it is going to breed all kinds of increased sexual dysfunction, maybe even violence, because if you can have whatever you want and you're constantly seeking more, and it just keeps upping the ante on perversions.
Right. Yeah. There's not the natural limits that we have.
The governor.
Yeah, they're not the governor. Yeah. No, I agree with everything you say. Spot on. I do think people should watch the movie Her, and see how it ends. I guess my hope with all of this AI stuff is that it will ultimately disappoint in such a way that we'll be bored with it and, we'll move on. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I hope it's boredom, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more deep heartache.
yeah. Well, I also feel the same way about this in its stupidity and I'm just going to say it like crypto. So I've kind of said before, like, I'm either way too smart or way too dumb to understand crypto, because, okay, I still believe that crypto can be taken away because it relies on power. Okay, it relies on electricity. Okay, it relies on information and data being stored in a blockchain server. But it's not real.
It's not a physical thing you can hold on to.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I know that people in crypto would say I'm an idiot, and I don't really get it, in that it is physical because it's on like computers that are like real. I'm like, okay, I got that, but like it's not a piece of silver, okay, and it's not. It just doesn't have value in the same way. And so,
does the money on your credit card, is that physical?
No, it's also all of American money is fiat currency, but we won't talk about that.
Okay.
Maybe in the future. I did write an essay for publication about inflation and how we need to be thankful for it, but I'll have to save that for another day.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is much worse, is my argument. But anyway, so but this is something where the plug could be pulled.
Yes.
And it's like, well, where'd she go? And this has happened. There were some romantic AI chatbots like last year that like people took too far, so the company pulled them, and like I think some guy like killed himself.
Oh because,
yeah. So are we going to have like mass loneliness?
Yes.
Replace so then we use AI chatbots to solve that, but something inevitably goes wrong because that's the whatever rule that is. What is that? Entropy or whatever can
Murphy's
go
Law?
wrong. Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Okay.
So something will go wrong, and then we'll have mass delusion, mass psychosis, mass.
Well, and even before you get to the companion thing, ChatGPT is already making us dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you guys talked about that in one of the ones I wasn't on, but the fMRI scans that they're doing, people that use it all the time, they're not building new neural pathways in their brains, and our brains are atrophying.
Yeah.
So now if you do that in a relationship, can you even imagine? Oh my gosh, we're just making ourselves the worst versions of ourselves.
Yeah. I had an interesting, I'll have to keep this extremely generic. I had an interesting challenge. Someone asked me to help them write something for a job. And they brought in like AI generated. Yeah. Like, this is how AI answered this question.
Okay.
And I can't go into any detail about it. But I ended up doing the best that I could to weave in this person's history, biography, with the questions they were answering.
Okay.
Because I was thinking to myself, okay, it can't sound like the AI stuff.
Right.
Like it has to be
real and
it has
personal.
to be you know? So, and English was not their first language, so that was part of it. It's I don't know.
But it was mentally challenging to have to do that, is what you're saying,
It was, and AI just produces slop. Like, it's so obviously AI. I don't
know. I think it's getting like it used to be, just a few months ago, if I would Google something and the first thing that came up was AI, I would just dismiss it because it was sort of stupid. Now I'm like, oh dang, that's actually the answer I needed.
I do use like Grok, which is X's AI, and my browser has an AI, and oftentimes in terms of doing research, it does a good job. And I'll go to the link that it provides. Like, for example, I have a cousin who's Catholic, and I write for Every Main Commentary, his website, his Substack. And we have a text thread, and I wanted to find the quote, and I didn't know who it was from, but the quote is that the Reformation was essentially Augustine's theory of grace winning out over his theory or theology of the church. And so I just typed that in. Who said that? And B.B. Warfield. And it provided me with the quote, and I could copy and paste. And so AI is great for that.
Yeah. They also make the pictures for our marketing for our events sometimes. Yeah.
Did you see the Will Smith
No.
hype video?
No.
Okay, so Will Smith produced this video this week, and it's like him singing on stage, and it looks totally like the crowd is not real. Like, it's just obviously not real. Like, he's not he's not at a stadium with 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is AI generated, and of course he's not saying that it is, but it just looked looks obvious. So
Yeah, everyone's got 6 fingers
Yeah.
on their hands.
I think Christians, to make it kind of religious, I think Christians have an obligation though to resist AI as much as they possibly can. And yes.
We will have to do an event about that sometime soon, because I think we have plenty of people that would say, no, we have to be stewards of it, not avoid it.
Yeah.
But my point with this article and my white pill with this, and again, it's not happy, but is anytime you are, this idea of curating a perfect person to be your partner, it just flies in the face of everything that God has designed for
Right.
us. And as someone that just took vows and just got married, I'm thinking a lot about this.
Mhm.
I
don't know. Dave's pretty perfect.
he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's true. Shout out to my hubby.
Yeah.
But he's not perfect, and neither am I. And we are going to hurt each other, and then we're going to have to forgive each other. And there's something very beautiful about that.
Well, the word you used was sanctification.
Yeah.
And so it's growing in holiness. And yes, that's how you grow in holiness is through that process of interacting with people,
Yeah.
sinning against them, being forgiven, and so on and so forth. So that's the problem with AI is it's the way he described it is exactly right. We're creating a perfect friend who turns out to not be perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate irony. That's the
Or
tragedy
it's
of the whole
ourselves.
thing.
So then we end up dating ourselves. Ew.
Yeah. Which is just another form of narcissism. So
That's a better way to say it. Narcissism.
I just have a feeling like people will say things like, "Oh, AI is so amazing. You can create these videos now. You can recreate Indiana Jones where you are Indiana Jones and then watch the movie." I'm like, okay, just because you can, does that mean anybody will? I tend to think that technology will. I just think it'll get old. I just think it'll be boring. I think the problem is that when you can do anything, it loses value. And so then there's going to be this natural reversion. So I think of like classic cars. I think classic cars are good investments right now.
Okay.
Because as cars resemble computers, I think there's going to be an intuitive desire, probably only among men, but some women, to have something like mechanical and old and even if it breaks, there's something visceral about it in a way that AI and computers, et cetera, aren't.
Can't offer you. Yeah.
So
Perhaps you're right.
I don't know.
Sounds terribly boring to me. But
Well,
I'm a girl, so.
Okay,
Moving
so
along.
this was an article I wrote of the aforementioned Everyman Commentary, which is a Substack, which you can find. I think that Substack has like 6,000 subscribers now.
Cool.
Which was amazing to me. So that's amazing. So I'm not the only writer, but I did write this article, which is a Spanish town following a Nazi playbook. And so basically, there is a town in Spain. It looks like Jumilla, but it's probably Jumia or Jumia. I don't know if the J is pronounced or not. So, but long story short, they blocked Muslims in their town. It's a town of like 30, 40,000 people. So not a small town, but not a big city, from using sports stadiums for prayer, basically. So what seems to happen and seems to be happening in Europe is that as there kind of is a critical mass of Muslims, they gather in a public place, or they might use like a football stadium or something to go pray.
I had never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Using a stadium to do prayer.
I hadn't either. But apparently it's like, well, if we have this issue in America as well, where if you have a church where you have weddings, it becomes a public space. So now then what gives you the right to ban, say, a same-sex wedding or something, right? So then what churches will do is say, oh, well, I guess we're not going to be doing non-member weddings anymore, because we don't want to run that risk. So similarly, if you want to, let's say Billy Graham was alive and he wanted to have a crusade event in Jumilla, Spain, would they have it? They would have it at the football stadium. That's soccer for, they would have it at the football stadium because that's the only place that could hold enough people. Well, if we allow the Christians to have it, then, well, now we have all these Muslims in the last few decades. So now they want to have an event. We can't say no. So what this town is saying is, no, actually we can say no.
Yeah.
Because that's not who we are.
Yeah.
We want to host events in our football stadium that represents our values.
Yeah.
So again, worldview collision, who's going to win? And so why am I mentioning the Nazis? Well, you had the beginning of kind of the Nazi reign was arguably the Aryan paragraph.
Yeah, I want you to explain this to people.
Okay, so the Aryan paragraph kind of gave birth in many respects to the confessing church, which was led by people like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Martin Niemöller, and others, and led to like Bonhoeffer's seminary, in modern day Poland and such, where he wrote Life Together and such. Anyway, so the Aryan paragraph essentially barred non-Aryans, aka Jews, from public, like teaching at a university, basically being a civil servant. So if there was a government job, you couldn't have that job if you were a Jew. Even if you were like a quarter Jew and you taught physics at the University of Bonn or something. Nope, can't do that anymore. So it was the beginning of the exclusion of Jews from public life. And so the question is that what's going on in Spain? And my argument is no, and the reasons are pretty simple, which is that it might be easier if I just read what I said, but I don't know if I printed it. I didn't. Anyway, basically, in Spain, they're not prohibiting Muslims from living in certain places or from having jobs.
Or making money. Yeah, making money.
Making a living. They're not
Yeah.
excluded from every aspect of life. They're just excluded from this particular religious aspect of life. So,
Well, they're not even excluded from praying. They just can't
Right.
pray in that space.
Right.
They can pray anywhere else they want.
so my question is, if I want to be really provocative, though, is to say, well, first of all, I think this town has the right to do this.
Yeah.
And so if you look at a map of how many mosques are in Europe and how many there were in the 1980s or something, it's shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going from like 20
Mm-hmm.
in England to like 2,000 now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty obvious that this is a quiet jihad, right? In the sense that we would believe in having dominion, so do they.
Like evangelism and outreach. We go and we're missionaries.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And the first thing we do is we build a church or we establish a church, and then we do
Disciple
outreach
and multiply
from
it.
there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty obvious that that's what's happening, and I think that Europe is having to figure out, and England is obviously going through this. You probably saw the video of the Scottish girl,
Yes.
holding the hatchet and the knife, saying "Get away from us." So that's a kind of related but tangential. Well, it's a related issue for sure. So I think the question might be at some point, okay, well, we actually think we can justify prohibiting you from praying in our football stadiums. Now we're going to prohibit you building any more mosques.
Ooh.
Now we're going to prohibit you having any mosques. In fact, we
that
don't
does
want
get dicey.
we don't want Muslims in this town anymore because that's not who we are. So my question is, would they be wrong in having that point of view? Remember when there was a mosque that was going to be built near 9/11, the Twin Towers? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was like there was going to be like a Muslim outreach center or something like that, like right near Ground Zero.
Oh, that's icky.
Well, okay, so yes. So but like why isn't it icky?
You really struggled to say that.
For in a majority Christian, context that a mosque would be there. Like okay, so what does religious freedom even mean? Like you can be that, but we're not going to sell you the land to build that mosque. I'm not saying I agree with that.
Yeah.
But like, would it be wrong to start to say, in Spain, I'm just making this up, right? In Spain, no more than 5% of any city's population can be Muslim. I know that sounds radical and crazy, but
Well, being Muslim is different than giving them space to have a mosque or to pray or to run some sort of commerce.
but
or
they
something.
wouldn't make that distinction. I think they would say, oh, well, no, being Muslim is being able to go to a mosque. You know?
Sure. I'm just saying you can't legislate what someone thinks in their mind.
Right. And this comes up in America too, because if you look at, say, Obamacare and like being forced to pay for abortifacient drugs, like as part of, or like birth control, like that, we had whole fights about that because, the Obama administration argued at the Supreme Court, well, you can be a Christian,
Yeah.
right? Like in your mind,
Yeah.
but you can't have the nuns still have to have an insurance policy that pays for abortion.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, wait a minute. Being a Christian in my mind means that I don't support abortion and I don't pay for it. And so the Muslim might say, well, being a Muslim in my mind means I have the ability to walk down the street and go to a mosque.
Right. But one is a thing you're doing and one is a lack of a thing you're doing. So
Yeah.
I do think there's something like you shouldn't force me to do something, but you can keep me from doing something. Those
Yeah.
are different.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Muslim thing is tricky because I know, a lot of, especially American Muslims would say, the ones that we see on TV that are these extremists, that's not true. Islam, most Islam is peaceful. Those are just the extremists. Um, and Spain is presumably doing this, I would think, because they don't want it to develop into some kind of extremist Muslim action.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they actually have a problem with their just, sort of core beliefs.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I don't have an answer for this. I don't know. But as far as them not being able to meet on the field and pray, I thought the whole idea of Muslim prayer, the 5 times a day, face east, was that you do it privately wherever you are. That's not a corporate necessarily. I mean, yes, when you meet at the mosque, you pray corporately, and maybe they're saying they don't have room at a mosque for all of them, and so they need to meet on the soccer field.
Well, see, I think these are provocative.
Or is sort of a demonstration?
I think they're intended to be provocative.
Okay.
I think that's my own view. I think that what they're saying is, well, now that we've reached a certain percentage of the population of this city, we're all going to get together so they see us in one place and they feel outnumbered.
Yeah.
Or they feel like we're what are you
force
do
to be
now?
reckoned with.
Yeah. And I think in Islam, I've heard before that they do put the percentage of a population at which they will have sort of overt influence is only like 10%. You just have to be a silent minority.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, how many people are panicked about climate change? Well, probably not that many, but like there's a loud minority and a well-funded minority that makes us, change public policy. Same with LGBT.
Yeah.
Only 2% of people are gay, and yet we've created this whole, panic about it. In many respects, we've changed our laws about it. Now we have to endorse marriage for a small number of people. So, I think that these are provocations. That's my own view. And I think that that they are willing. I think that many Muslims understand that through population. I think they're using the West's freedoms against
kindness.
us.
Yeah.
In terms of welfare, because many of them are on the dole.
Yeah.
In some way, and then through freedom of expression, freedom of gathering. And they'll say, oh, we believe in freedom of gathering too. We believe in freedom of expression. We believe in freedom of religion too. Until then, the majority, and then they don't.
Well, yeah, wasn't there in Texas, there was going to be, I think we quashed it, but yeah.
Yes.
The town, basically, that was going to be all Muslim and wasn't going to allow non-Muslims to be a part of it. And so...
well, because what ends up happening, like in Dearborn, or even in like Hasidic communities, it's very similar. You end up having these cities within cities where they have their own law, Sharia law. They have their own sort of governance systems, their own kind of police enforcement.
It's like Chop Chaz.
Yes, they're called no-go zones in Europe, and what they mean is the police don't go.
Oof.
And the people don't go because they're their own places. And so I think Europe is like, okay, we all thought we were on the same page here,
right?
But it turns out we're not.
Right.
So like they actually don't share our values. They don't actually value human rights in a way that we do.
And maybe that's the question to ask. Like maybe the question isn't about religion versus other religion or worldview as much as we do that. Maybe the question is, what do they think is right to do? I mean, and just thinking about how they treat women, in Sharia law, how women are treated.
It's kind of like, I kind of will say over and over again, like, I just want Mexico's immigration policy. Yeah. Right? Because, and so I would say, why can't Spain have Saudi Arabia's public religion policy? Because you can't be a Christian in Saudi Arabia. You can't even attempt to convert someone. You have to be way on the down low if you're talking to a Muslim about faith. Like it endangers possibly your life, I think. You can bring a Bible in through customs, but like only one. I believe that's the law in Saudi Arabia. You can't bring in a box of Bibles. Like to spread to people. Right. Are you crazy? Like you can't take over the soccer stadium and have a Billy Graham crusade in most Muslim countries. So they favor the majority in their countries. So why can't we? And part of the issue is, and I lay out some stats in Spain, is that only something like 17% of Spanish people even go to Mass. So, you can see that the suicide of Christianity in the West is the vacuum is being filled with Islam. They're not stupid. By the way, I just got done reading Defenders of the West by Raymond Ibrahim, who is an Orthodox. He's a Coptic Egyptian Christian, and he kind of details, the heroes who fought off Islam in Spain, the heroes who, the Crusades, you're
Hmm.
trying to take back Jerusalem, like Richard the Lionhearted and Godfrey of Bouillon, and a lot of whom I knew nothing about at all.
Hmm.
And the sacrifices that they made to keep Europe Christian, just the mind-blowing sacrifices,
Hmm.
and the way that it's just being given over now is nothing short of tragic, I would say. Speaking of,
Okay.
this was just one of those things that make you go kind of things, where Mike Huckabee, who is America's ambassador to Israel, and this is from a Twitter account by a Chris Minahan, InfoLib News. Anyway, he is quoted in this video as saying, he is speaking to two Jewish rabbis. "You are the chosen people. If someone is angry at God, he'll be angry at the people who represent him." And I don't know what Mike Huckabee's exact theology is. I'm guessing he's in the dispensational camp. He's
yeah.
in
No, I think he is.
he's kind of like a John Hagee type.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously very pro-Israel.
Yeah.
He actually
He's a
said,
Christian.
he was a Christian. He was a Baptist pastor.
Yeah.
And he was the governor of Arkansas. And his daughter, who I like a lot, was Trump's spokeswoman, and she's the governor of Arkansas. But this is kind of, do Christians believe that? I guess.
Some. I think.
Are they correct to believe it?
Oh goodness. I mean, was Israel God's chosen people? Yes.
Yes.
So they're kind of two camps, right? Within Christianity, people that would say Israel is still God's chosen people, and there's still sort of a special path for them. And we've had, if you go back and listen to our podcast with like Stephen Curto and all the Stevens really, on eschatology, pre-mill eschatology, or all that kind of stuff, they would say, yes, there's a special, a special sort of path that Israel will continue, and special promises that are just for Israel, that were always for Israel and will continue to be for Israel. And then I would say the other sort of half would say that the church is the new Israel. And so, yes, there are still Jewish people that believe in God and they're following God, but that when we refer to Israel in the church, that Gentiles were grafted in, and now the new Israel is the church, which was, started by Christ and the apostles. And you can read about that in Acts. I tend to fall into that second one, but I do still think there's something special about maybe not Israel, but actually observing Jews. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky issue. I didn't read this one before I came in, so I didn't have a hot take ready for it. But
well, no.
But but the second part of the quote says people are only anti-Semitic because they are, quote, against God. I think I can stand behind that.
Well,
if you're anti any kind of person.
Yeah. But so the problem comes, and this has been debated a lot, the problem comes when disagreeing with Israel's foreign policy at the moment, you might say, or war policy, becomes anti-Semitism, And it's like, well, no.
Okay.
So you and I would agree that, like, we might not like how Netanyahu is executing the current war against Hamas. Okay. Or maybe we do like it. But if I don't like it, that doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic.
Sure. No.
But
that is what's being
there
painted.
are a lot of people who feel like criticism of, of Israel in their current policies, they are told, well, if you feel that way, then you're anti-Semitic.
Right.
And so
no, I don't think
that isn't. So I agree with you that, like, yes, being anti-Semitic in the true sense of that word.
In the true sense of the word, similarly to the true sense of the word racist.
Yeah.
If you actually are racist, that is anti-God.
Yeah.
Because God made all the races.
Right. Agree. Totally agree. Yeah. I just think it's I don't know. I think that a Christian should not, I don't think that Christians need to, like, kowtow to Jews. I guess I would put it like that. Like, I think we could say we have a shared history, but we should demand respect for Christ, right? Because it kind of feels like he's kind of giving up the game a little bit. Like,
but also it is a little bit his job to,
if that's what he's doing,
to protect and care about and speak on behalf, advocate for the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he's kowtowing, and they are our allies. So take the religious aspect out of it. I mean, just they share a lot of our, Western ideals. about freedom and these kinds
No,
of things.
I want to be a good ally with Israel.
Yeah.
Israel, and I do think we
And
have
I
a
think they
special
should bomb the
bond.
crap out of Hamas, as we all know.
Yes, which they have.
Yeah.
And I do think we have a special friendship and a special relationship given our shared, love of what we call the Old Testament and all that. Anyway, I just thought it was strange language. I'll just leave it at that and let people make
But
their own stuff.
I think a lot of people think this way. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, when everything happened with October 7th a couple years ago, a lot of pastors here in Houston would reference, and I get this. Is it Genesis where it talks about if you stand with Israel, God will stand with you, and if you go against them, God will kind of go against you. That's a terrible paraphrase, worse than the Message.
Yeah.
But you can look it up.
Yeah.
And there is something special about Israel, and you hear a lot of pastors talking about that. So I don't think it's a minority view.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have one of our dispensationalists come on and make a case for that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have to go?
And I got a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, real fast, we'll do this last story.
Yeah.
I know children need to be picked up from school, so we have hard outs, as they say. This is a story from the New York Post. Illinois man allegedly drugged pregnant girlfriend with abortion pills to cause miscarriage. There's a lot to unpack, but essentially, an Illinois man has been charged with allegedly dosing his pregnant girlfriend with abortion pills without her knowledge, causing her to suffer a miscarriage, according to authorities. From the city of Normal, he was arrested, and he discovered a pregnant woman suffering a medical emergency, or police did when they were called there. And so, long story short, there's a lot to unpack. Number one, I've said this for a while, the fight for abortion is going to involve abortion pills now, much more than even the Planned Parenthood 4 blocks from my house is shutting down.
I know.
I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, at the end of September.
Biggest one in America.
Biggest one in America on Gulf 45, right by the University of Houston. If you've ever driven in Houston, you've driven by it. I drive by it every day, twice a day, unfortunately. So thank God. Like I told my kids, I was like, we need to go buy like a birthday cake and we need to eat cake outside on September 30th. And I'm not even sure I'm joking at this point. By the way, today is the day in between both of my children's baptismal anniversaries. So I need to get milkshakes with them.
Okay, thanks for that.
We do that. Okay. You should celebrate your baptismal anniversary. Okay. Anyway, so that's issue number one, is that if you're not hip to the fact yet that the fight about abortion is going to come down to abortion pills and you have to limit access to them even across state lines.
Yeah.
If abortion is wrong in Texas, it's wrong to access the drugs from out of state. It's wrong.
If something's wrong, it's wrong everywhere.
And it's wrong for the woman to take them.
Yeah.
And if it's wrong for the woman to take them, then she faces prosecution. I know the pro-lifers are running around with their hair, pulling out. No, we can't say that. Well, I just said it. So that's number
so
one.
Brave.
Number two, if a woman does what the man did and she isn't committing homicide, then why is he?
Yeah.
Right?
But the end of the article basically says that, right? That he's going to be indicted for homicide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the...
Yeah, I mean, he's booked. I mean, we're looking at his mugshot
Okay.
because he, against her will, he killed the baby. Well, what about a woman who kills the baby against his will?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of women that say to the man, hey, honey, in fact, there was a scene that went viral about 7 years ago, or it was like a 7-year-old scene from the show Girls, I think, the Lena Dunham show, where the really ugly guy who's in Star Wars, what's his name?
I don't know.
Anyway, his girlfriend says in the scene, I'm pregnant. And he's like, wow, that, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And then she's like, but I'm going to take care of it, and he erupts in anger. It's like, what do you mean? Or maybe she says, I already took care of it. And so he feels betrayed that, well, that's my baby too.
Yeah.
Right? So what about a man who says, no, you don't get to kill my child because it takes two to tango here. And she says, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that just what happened with this guy? She says, whatever, I'm going to keep the baby. And he says, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So I admit that in giving her drugs, the baby was inside of her body. So there was bodily harm.
Yes.
So there's not a perfect symmetry in the thing. But I just don't know why.
But that's not what he's on trial, because what he got in trouble for.
Right. No,
right?
for killing a baby.
For killing a life.
Right.
Yeah.
For taking a life.
Yeah.
And so why is it that our nation cannot stand, this is a house divided You know,
Yeah.
totally. Like, we cannot stand if we do not have consistency on when life begins, how it's protected, who protects it, and what the consequences are when it's intentionally not protected. Like,
Well, I just don't understand how whoever's sort of making these laws and arbitrating this, like, can't see the obvious, what's the word I'm looking for here? Juxtaposition, not
cognitive
paradox.
dissonance or
Yes, all of those
something. Yeah.
things. It doesn't make sense. Or as Austin
Hypocrisy.
said, make it make sense.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That he's being tried for this, and then so many other people get away with it, and it's legal. Like, what? It's
It's a little like the Scott Peterson case, right, where he kills his pregnant wife and he's charged for 2 counts. And so in California, like, there's the Scott Peterson law. Now, granted, of course, this doesn't matter to me, but she was like 8 months along. So there's like an extra ick factor of killing a woman who's 8 months pregnant than a woman who's 3 months pregnant or 2 months pregnant. Now, doesn't make any difference to me because it's just a timeline of development. But ontologically, it's a human life either way. But again, how do we have? Why is Scott Peterson in jail for 2 homicides, and this guy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like either life has value or it doesn't. Either life in the womb has value or it doesn't. Either he's in the wrong and she would be in the wrong if she did the same thing.
Yeah.
Or no one's in the wrong.
But the white pill here is that he is in the wrong, and I think that's great.
Yes, I'm
and
wondering.
He's being tried.
I mean, to me, this is the legal justification for the people in my world, the abolitionist camp, to say, "Hello,
Yeah.
you know,
let's universalize this.
We're all admitting that he did something wrong,
Right?
So does the woman who does the same thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's against his will or not, but at least you could maybe set that legal groundwork that if the man wants it, anyway.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's not right or wrong if you want the baby or not. It's wrong to kill life. So anyway.
Agreed.
Do you want to talk about this last story? You want to?
No, there's not much. I'll mention it. So Kilmar Abrego Garcia, if you guys remember, he was just that Maryland dad who several months ago, everybody was up in arms. We actually talked about this on our podcast because he was, he's taken up in one of the ICE raids and sent off to El Salvador. Was it? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, no, he was innocent. He wasn't really this or that. Was he an MS-13? We don't know. And then, of course, more information came out that he probably was in MS-13. And then also more information came out that he beat his wife. And multiple times she had gone to the police. So he was a bad dude.
There's police body cam of stopping him with a van with like 8 adults in it.
Yeah.
Where
so
they took a van, they added a whole seat to it. Yes, it's a human smuggling van. So... yeah.
So he's a bad dude, and then the governor of Maryland went down there and had coffee with him and was all sad about
senator
it.
From Maryland, yeah.
Anyway, and it was all very silly, and then he somehow was let back in to America, and now arrested again, and this time they're going to send him even further away. And there's just all kinds of evidence against him that he actually, yes, was smuggling humans, and yes, is violent, and yes, is part of a gang. And I only even put this in our group chat because I was just trying to be a brat because, everyone, the people that disagree with me would say, oh, he was just a Maryland dad. He didn't do anything wrong. He did so many things wrong. Get him out. We don't want him.
Well,
why let him come back to begin with?
It's weird how certain stories just kind of hit a critical mass. And this guy is one of those stories. I mean, and so... there's lots of stories like this.
Yeah.
Just like there's lots of violent acts that Americans do that rise to the top. There's something about it that's catchy. And so this guy is like, he's just the cause celeb, I guess. And so he's just radioactive. And the left is sort of, for a while kind of made him their poster boy for, the evil of the Trump administration, defying court orders or exporting.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
No.
What's the word?
Deporting.
You export
goods and services.
Goods and services. Yeah. Deporting, human beings that belong here, and his wife is a citizen and such. So
his wife is probably glad he was gone. Her life is so much better now.
Well, it's one of those things where maybe she can't say it out loud, but she might feel that way given his tendencies. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's not much to say there. I'm just, I'm glad that it's come to light that. I mean, the white pill is that obviously we don't ever want somebody to be punished for something they didn't do. We don't ever want to hear about somebody going into death row that was unjustly, tried and convicted. And so there was some worry, oh gosh, what if he really was innocent? So it's nice to know that he was not innocent and he's going to get what he deserves.
I will say, maybe to make
Well, he's
a
actually not going to get what he deserves.
maybe to make a theological point on this is like I am struggling to understand what the problem is with a law and order approach to whether it's DC or, I mean, just today, for example, Tom Homan said, I think of the 300,000, missing children, they found something like 28,000 of them. To which I'm going, great, 28,000 is a lot of kids, and I'm hopefully they found them in safe places, or if they weren't, they're in a safe place now. But I am concerned about those 300,000 people. And I don't understand why the left is, generally speaking, not concerned. I don't understand it. Why aren't the left's values, and if they were here, I'm sure they would agree with me, aren't leftist values, compassion and kindness and mercy and justice? I mean, those
especially
are,
for the marginalized and those that don't have a voice. And,
those who can't protect themselves, which are children.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we all know that children were trafficked. Like, why is it not the thing that the Senate is willing to stay in session as long as it takes to do whatever it takes to find those children or to give them the money? Like, I really don't understand. I mean, I really don't understand, like, why there is not more anger about what took place with our immigration and how many children were put at risk. I don't think that's like a red herring. I don't think it's like a...
But it's also not the top of the talking bill when you hear about immigration stuff.
Yeah.
That's not...
among anybody.
I mean...
Like, even on the right.
Even on the right, we talk about fentanyl crisis and we talk about, jobs and all kinds of things.
I don't know. I am convinced that there are thousands of kids in horrific situations. And that was enabled.
Yeah.
It was enabled when you have dozens of children giving the same phone number, right, as their contact on this side of the states, and nobody said
that's puzzling.
That doesn't sound right, or the address was like a not a place, or whatever. I just don't. I'm confused. So anyway,
we are going to be talking about that topic in November at one of our events. So I mean, that's not the best answer for you, but it's the beginning of an answer, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
The conversation will continue. So November 11th, when we have events before then, but that one will be about borders and immigration and nations and these and the fallout from these kinds of decisions. So
where can people go, though, to learn about those events?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay. Oh my gosh. theologybythepint.org. Yeah.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
Same place, theologybythepint.org.
Okay.
I mean, Sunday mornings I'm at Oak Forest Anglican Church, but then I'm at all of our events. And the next one is September 20th. That one is like just for fun. It could be spicy if you take Evan up on his offer to argue with you, but it doesn't have to be. You can just come and drink beer.
In my corner by myself, and it just a 5-minute time limit, so you have to...
Maybe you can have a table like the Prove Me Wrong.
Yeah.
And just put some provocative phrases up there.
I would love to do that. It'd be good practice. So, well, I am Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor at First Lutheran, and you can find me there, flhouston.org. In the meantime, until next time, we encourage you to question freely, think deeply, and disagree as needed.